Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. In January of this year, you may have noticed a new mysterious band pop up on social media, plugging their take on the pop punk of the aughts and 2010s. Formed out of a Craigslist ad, Cheap Bouquet was created as a desire to do something different. They put out their first single, Heart Punch, on April 4th and are releasing their next single in a week of this episode's release. It's Chelsea, Brandon, and Sam of Cheap Bouquet, and they're right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
Good.
Great.
Very good. How are you?
Good. Just got off work, hanging out. It's cool to have y'all here. I'm excited to chat with y'all because it's rare we get a band that's like brand new. You know, usually we get some bands that are like, all right, we have our first single out or we're just putting out a record, but it's like, no, y'all are like still within the first couple months of at least publicly existing. Yeah. So first, let's start off and how do you describe Cheap Bouquet to people? Like, what's the log line? Usually they'll be like, oh, you're in a band. What's your band like? And what's that line to like either make them go away because they're not, you're just like, cool, thanks, aunt, like your aunt at Thanksgiving, or it's like your coworker. Like, how do you describe that?
Well, I suppose, I don't know. I always am just like, yeah, it's like some like pop punk like kind of thing, kind of in that box a little bit. Kind of deal. That's kind of the coworker answer, I guess. But I suppose to anybody else, I usually lead with pop punk. But I think it's, I don't know, definitely influenced by a pretty wide variety of genres and a pretty wide variety of artists. I think is really neat.
Yeah, I think, like when Chelsea kind of started all this, that was the kind of the preemptive move was pop punk. But as the three of us come together, it's still there, I think, at the core, but it's just evolved into some other stuff. We all have different tastes and stuff. But yeah, definitely as far as the lead line, we're a three-piece pop punk band. And, and then you have to ride that fine line of like the whole female-fronted thing because sometimes like you want to acknowledge like we've got this great group of people, but also like, is that going to be a turn-off? Is it going to be leading people in the wrong direction? Things like that. So, but pop punk's usually the go-to for it.
And so let's start off. Let's get y'all's like individual kind of histories, with music. What made you want to start playing, and what kind of led you here? So I don't know who wants to go first, but we can. Or Chelsea, since you didn't answer the last question.
I don't know. I started playing guitar when I was really young. I guess I was mostly influenced by my biggest influence is Joan Jett. Guitar, and I grew up listening to a lot of like Blink-182 and Green Day, which led me to loving pop punk. I don't know. I played in a lot of bands throughout the years, and I think just more recently I've been wanting to play like a newer style of pop punk, more like Wonder Years, Real Friends kind of style stuff. So yeah, I think I was really lucky in finding other people who also wanted to play that genre.
Yeah, Brandon, you got it. I'll go
Okay.
last.
Yeah, I guess my music history really stems around songwriting more than anything else. I've played tons of instruments. I did high school band and all that, but I remember like being like 7, 8 years old and going to like elementary music class and being like, oh, I wrote this song. Can I sing it for the class? And so that's always been the crux of it. So for me, I started playing guitar like middle school, I want to say, and it was very much like pop punk was what I listened to. But guitar-wise, I was raised on like metal music, which apparently is like a thing. A lot of like metal dudes end up in pop punk bands. But that just sort of reinforced it. And for me, I've just like every few years I like move states, just circumstances and whatever. So kind of starting over every time, So, I've played in a band here in the cities and kind of got a foothold there. But similarly to Chelsea, just wanted to get something that was a little bit more higher work rate, higher creativity rate, just like the which we'll get into, like the flow of creativity with this group is nuts. Like the songs keep coming, and that's really what is most important to me is like how do we craft really, really, strong, powerful songs. So
Yeah, this is my first band of this structure. I've lurked in the scene for a long time. I've been around, but very much, long time listener, first time caller in this scenario. I have like pretty heavy musical theater background, pretty heavy classical opera choir Yeah, so not anything formally like this. So this has been really, really exciting. I'm really excited to just get back on stage, not with like a company or with like a choir or anything as formal as that. So this is gonna be really fun. It's been a super sick process so far to have so much like control over what you're doing as opposed to like someone with a clipboard yelling at you and shit. I haven't even seen one fucking clipboard this whole time. So this has been super sick. Best first band experience I think anybody could ever say they've ever had.
That's awesome. What's that transition been like for you to move from like a more rigid kind of classical context to something more pop oriented, a little looser? It's not the same.
I don't know. It's been sort of weird, but also pretty natural at the same time. I think a lot of my stage time halted during COVID. So there was a long time that I wasn't even on stage, and I have to just kind of become acclimated to doing that again in general. I think having some time away will have helped that. I mean, as unfortunate as it was that shut shit down for a long time. But I don't know. This has always been the type of music that I've listened to and the type of music that I've really, really connected with and loved my whole life. So the transition has been pretty easy just in terms of being so passionate about like what I'm doing and feeling really excited to just get this sound out.
Yeah.
So it's been just a lot of fun altogether.
Were you writing when you were doing your other kind of stuff, or was it just okay?
Yeah, I was writing, but kind of for nobody. Just doing, just filling up notebooks like by yourself, but not really taking it anywhere. And it's been really cool to kind of flip back and like look through those songs and see, what can we apply to Cheap Bouquet? What can we, make a full band arrangement out of? So that's been a super, super cool experience so far.
So then how did Cheap Bouquet form? Y'all, at least 2/3 of you had been playing in a bunch of bands in the cities here and other places. And so then where did this band kind of come together from?
So it all started with a Craigslist ad. Kind of what I said before, I was just kind of in a place where I was really wanting to like play a new style of music. So I decided to put it out on Craigslist. Not really expecting much.
And no one got murdered.
No, I mean, not yet.
Not yet.
There's still time.
Yeah, but I wasn't really expecting much to come of it. It was kind of just like a shot in the dark, kind of like, we'll see what happens here. I think maybe of like a month after the ad had been up, I had talked to some people, but it didn't really seem where I wanted to go with it. And then I got a message from Brandon, which we had never actually met each other before in person, but like I knew who he was from his band and he knew who I was from the bands I've been in. And I think like right away we kind of clicked with like, that's the style we both want to play. So shortly after that, him and I met up and just started kind of collaborating and like writing songs. And I think we just immediately had the connection that we both wanted the same things. We wanted to, write and do original music and tour and had the same goals. So like initially that's where it started. If you want to take it from there.
Yeah, no, it was crazy how quickly just the musical chemistry was already there. Like Chelsea just pumps out ideas constantly, and I'm like, oh cool, what we can do here is we can add this thing over the top, we can change it this way or whatever. So it was just, I think we had like a good like probably 3 of the 5 songs we recorded were more or less put together before we even brought Sam in. So it was just really cool and kind of in the same place. Like I was playing in a band, but we were I could feel it kind of beginning to dwindle, and it just wasn't, going the way that I was kind of hoping for. So just seeing that right off the bat with Chelsea was cool. And for me, like not originally from Minnesota, so my getting to know the music scene, Von Tramp's one of the first bands that I found. And I was just like, when I got the email, because we were just like, oh, I've played in these bands and whatever. And Chelsea's like, oh, you're from Bird Hole. I'm Chelsea from Von Tramps. I was like at work at Trader Joe's. She's like, oh my God, it's Chelsea from Von Tramps. I'm going to play guitar with
What
her.
are you doing here?
Which, we were both like, why are you on Craigslist? Why are either of us on Craigslist?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the chemistry, right off the bat was there. And my partner, I met Sam, through my partner. We just went to Sam's place because she wanted to hang out with her. And just by chance, she mentioned, she's like, oh yeah, Sam's a whole singer and plays like I think I saw your guitars in the apartment. I was just like, and so we just started chatting or whatever, and it was just like right off the bat, just very upfront. I'm just like, I've never done this before, whatever. And for me, like Sam said, like best first band experience you could have, and that's kind of like been my like as soon as we started talking, I was like, this would be the best first band experience, and I want to make sure someone gets that. So we invited Sam to audition, and I'll let Sam kind of take it from that.
Yeah, I was also equally fucking stoked. About the Von Tramps, I used to do 7 or 8 years ago at the garage, like street team stuff where they'll be like, hey, if you guys post pictures and we'll give you the Instagram password, you guys can come to the shows for free. And so I was like, holy fuck. And so I went, and I remember I saw the Von Tramps there, and like ever since then I was like super stoked. And so when Brandon was like, hey, me and Chelsea from, you might know the Von Tramps. I don't know if you know them from around here. Are, working on this project. We're looking for a vocalist. Come hang out. I have been just so excited since day one because of that. And yeah, I remember, I don't know, just being like, I felt really, really welcomed right away. Mm-hmm. Everyone was super chill. I didn't feel intimidated at all. I was not really sure what to expect, I guess, from a kind of informal audition sort of standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. These guys are the fucking best.
Yeah,
this has been awesome.
It was really weird too, from Brandon and I's perspective, being like, okay, so there's this girl. She's never been in a band before. Yeah. But we're gonna bring her in, see what happens, and it's been great.
Yeah, and it's great because we had talked to a few other people who had been in bands and whatever, and there's just the ego, and they're just they kind of expect you to meld to them, and there's zero egos among the three of us, and that's been what's kept it so good. But I remember Sam came in and literally wrote top to bottom. I think Graduation Juice was finished lyrically. And so she just sang this song, which was this most honest, candid lyrics you could have possibly imagined. Yeah. And then Sam gets up to use the restroom, and Chelsea both just look at us and are like, yeah, that's our singer. Done. Yeah. So it's just when you got a good thing, you just know, you just roll with it. So
yeah, I feel like it'd be really cool to try and find someone who isn't, like you said, the ego driven or the jaded by they've been in bands, they maybe haven't ended well. They're just I'm just doing this fucking thing because I want to be in music, and so it's sick to have that kind of opportunity. So what was the time frame for this? Was this over the course of last year or within a couple months, or kind of what was?
So I put this on our group calendar because I want
our Gmail calendar.
Chelsea and I first got together the last week of August, and then Sam came in maybe 2.5 weeks later in September. So it's been just a little over 6 months total that we've been working on this project kind of behind the scenes. So.
And so then were y'all writing pretty quickly then from there, or kind of what was the next steps for?
Yeah, I think Brandon and I had already had some groundwork made for songs. Maybe we had 2 or 3, but we didn't have lyrics, I think, yet. So then once we brought Sam in, she came in and wrote full lyrics to one of our songs immediately. And I think probably within the first month, I think we probably had 3 songs at that point.
Yeah, we were pretty quick on that. They gave me these demos, and they're like, hey, here's some demos, see if you can maybe come up with a melody for it or whatever. But I can't really come up with a melody without lyrics or lyrics without a melody. So I was like, man, I guess I'll just finish it. And that was a super exciting experience too, to just kind of establish that groundwork of how we have kind of this Henry Ford ass assembly line thing going on. Where someone will pump out some demo that it would get passed down to the rest of the group, that someone will program drums onto, and someone else will record bass, and it's been super cool.
Yeah, I think one of our songs Chelsea had written and recorded just a scratch thing onto Guitar Pro. I think in December was when Out Loud came together, and then I heard it, and we had talked about oh, it'd be cool if we wrote a song about this theme, and I listened to it, and I was like, this is the song about that, and within I think 8 hours, like just over the internet, just swapping things back and forth.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed
Yeah.
that much. Like,
I
it's
just feel like things really work really fast like that in this band. Like someone has an idea, and then if we just roll with that idea, within like 2-3 days, we'll have a full song.
It seems really natural for y'all to like put songs together, which isn't always a common occurrence when trying to create.
It's not.
It's sort of pulling teeth.
Yeah.
So then, let's keep talking about that flow of creativity, which is a phrase used a little earlier, and how songs are coming together. Kind of what's been your process like for these, and kind of how many songs this initial kind of run did you come up with?
So far we have 5.
Yeah.
5 songs is
Give or
like
take.
5 songs is what we started with,
Yeah.
and that we have actually just finished recording. But yeah, like looking ahead, we already have, I think, demos written for another 4 coming along.
Yeah. Yeah, the process it's been super collaborative, and the group is definitely like a more is more, let's try everything sort of approach. And it's also good because we have like there's no like personal, there's no hurt feelings of just like if an idea is not working or if it's not quite right, like it goes. You know? We get rid of it. Like I said, I'm a metal guitarist by trade, so there's been a few riffs I've tried to sneak in where it's just like, all right, let's tame that back a little bit. But yeah, no, it's just like one person will have an idea and we just build off of it. The lyric writing process has been really fascinating because like Sam's written like I think probably at this point the majority of the lyrics. But we both do some singing on it. I write some of the lyrics as you know, I've sung in bands before. But it's just been cool, like kind of feeling that out. So we'll just sit and just have conversations about like, we want to write a song about this. Let's just talk for an hour about that topic and figure out how we both feel about it. So it's been really cool in that way.
Yeah, I've never really had to be in like the position where you're writing songs kind of like with somebody else. Everything that I've ever done has been all extremely introspective, and I mean the only subject I could write about was me and myself and my experiences. Yeah. So having another person and another objective opinion to that kind of thing has been really cool. I think like sometimes it'll go like I'll have a song already fully done, or Brandon will already have a song fully done where one of us will add a verse or add some stuff at the end. But it's been really cool being able to like write a full song like top to bottom with somebody else.
Right. Yeah, and even like Sam mentioned, like the notebooks from the past, just being able to look at that and be like, because like when she came in and auditioned, she just played just like a song of hers, and we're like working on like turning that into like one of our songs now, because it's just like you can just hear good songs when you hear them. So, but yeah, no, the writing process has been really cool that way, and there was something I was gonna say. But yeah, no, the collaborative process of just like working together and just like you kind of have your own like idiosyncrasies about your writing. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm saying this word too much, and having the person be like, you're overthinking this right now. Of course, you say I a lot. It's a song about you. You know? So it's been really cool having that.
Yeah, I feel like we have a similar cadence in speech in our writing too, like that I think is really easy to match and follow. I think the stars aligned really well there because I think we can blend our songwriting enough that you don't necessarily know who wrote it or what part is whose, and it's all very cohesive.
So the first song, which will be out on April 4th, is called Heart Punch, which sounds sick. I got to watch the video and hear the song early. So talk to me about this, why that is the debut single, and kind of what was going into this song that made you, when you were writing it.
I think with this one, it wasn't initially supposed to be the first single, but once we got in the studio and started recording, things kind of change. You know, like once you hear everything fully produced, you kind of have a different perspective on it than you had before. So I think like once we heard it, I think it just really is like a good example of what this band is and like what this band is going to sound like. So it just like made sense to put this one out. Yeah, it's
funny. For the songs we recorded, we used a session drummer who lives in Serbia, I believe. And for whatever reason, this song was like the hardest to nail down. And so there was, going into the studio, even like, I don't think any of us had actually heard exactly what the song was, even structurally what it was supposed to do, because the drums were it was a process, you know? So yeah, like Chelsea said, once you kind of hear it all together, it's like, oh, like I think it was probably like 2 hours before we were done with our time in the studio. And it was kind of like, you guys think we should do this one instead?
Yeah.
And we were all,
It just felt right.
Everyone was just waiting for someone to say it, and but
Yeah, this one was also a really good example of like the Henry Ford system that takes place via Google Drive and Facebook Messenger. That like they had sent me a demo, and they were like, yeah, like if you want to just like throw the melody on here, maybe. And I wrote Heart Punch over it. And it was just kind of meant to be like, here's an example of a song that we maybe could do that might sound, you know, like something we might do. And it just turned into, I feel like a very wide, broad, I guess, what am I trying to say? I feel like it would capture a pretty wide audience. It's not like too niche to begin with at the start.
And was this one you'd already written kind of in the notebooks you were digging through, or was
No, this one was just kind of like written on the spot to fill a melody a little bit and just what kind of sounded good where. So it's been kind of hard to then go back and think, okay, what does this actually mean when I have to describe it? Like, what does this actually mean?
when you sit on a podcast to talk about your music?
Right.
Yeah, we were actually sitting down to do like playlist curation, submission stuff, and we're like, all right, let's write a bio about this song. Sam, what's the song about? And we sat there for like 3 hours and just like, we used a lot of Chat GPT to get the ball rolling of just like, tell us what the song's about. And there was some bizarre words came out of that. But yeah, it was,
man.
but it's just evolved so much. Even like the bridge section, that wasn't even fully put together. We put that together like in the practice space, like in January, I think.
Yeah.
And even that, like we went into the studio. I'm like, so you're going to record the vocals in that part, right? It's like, no, Brandon, you're going to record the vocals on that part. It's like, oh. Okay. So yeah, it's crazy. And even when we first started playing it, we all said it's like it doesn't really have like a chorus to it, you know? But now we have people, as we've like been sharing bits and pieces, like, oh dude, I've had that chorus stuck in my head
For weeks. I hear that a lot.
You just never know how people are gonna perceive, you know, the things you write.
It's very hooky and very catchy. I'll be scrolling TikTok and I'll just hear the words over and over again. It's great.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. It's working. It's working.
You walk around the house singing it in like a fake SoCal accent just to really add the pop punk in there. Yeah.
Right.
Really hit it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the bridge section because with those dual vocals, was that almost like a call and response between kind of almost the two characters, or like what was that more about?
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. So when we the bridge was the hardest part to figure out for us because we just had like nothing there for a while. And I had thrown out the line, we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
That was just like a lyric that I'd been sitting on for like years. I'm like, this could work. It just sort of was sitting there. And then I came up with the thing that I'm singing, that moving part. But I don't necessarily know if it's character because I really wrote it from like the perspective of Sam's character in the situation. It just worked out that I ended up singing.
Yeah, I don't know how we landed on that. I think like I didn't know it. I had never practiced it. I don't know why, but in the space, Brandon had always sang it because I mean, we're not going to switch the parts, but like,
Yeah, and I think in the song, like it kind of comes out of nowhere, and I think it really adds a lot to it. It's like a really cool part, and I think people like really cling to that as something cool in this band to have like two vocalists.
Yeah.
and the gang vocals, like to follow that, it adds like a stair in the steps of number of voices that I really like.
Yeah. So it was always meant to be more counter melody, more so than like the call and response. It just ended up kind of working out that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so then you're not doing are you just releasing singles then at least through this year, or kind of what's the plan for the remaining kind of 5 songs you?
Yeah.
together?
So we're hoping to do these 5 songs, kind of spread them out just across most of the summer, probably. We do hope to go in and record a few more, just kind of continue doing that. You know, we talk a lot about like reach and audience and things like that, and just seeing the kind of the effect of releasing things one at a time for discoverability and things like that. So, like, I love the idea. We've all talked about like, oh, when we release an EP, when we write an album, because who doesn't want to do that? But yeah, I think we're just both, you know, taking all the lessons we've learned from all the bands we've been in, and like, how can we get this as big as we can get it, you know, because we want to do these tours and play festivals and stuff like that, and we'd like for people to show up.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But yeah, good.
I was just gonna say that's always a plus when people show up.
Yeah,
It's always
I'd
awkward
appreciate
to
it.
walk on stage to a minimal room.
Totally.
And so with this, since you don't have a bassist or a drummer yet, talk about who are you working with in the studio to kind of flesh it. You said you had a session drummer from Serbia.
Yeah.
And then, is it Maddie Thies? From a million other bands in the scene did bass.
Yes, we love Maddie.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
Maddie.
I think when we were talking about going into the studio, we kind of knew that we wanted to brand this band as the three of us. Like we're gonna make the decisions. The photos are gonna be us. And we'll kind of just figure the rest out. And bringing Maddie in was Brandon's idea. Just like, I know this amazing bassist, and we should see if they want to, do this. And I think he ended up hitting them up, and they came in and just crushed it.
Oh my god!
And on top of that, they're just an amazing person. So I think like going forward, we're hoping to have them on some live shows with us. And yeah,
it's definitely been the idea of playing live. We're just like, we'll kind of figure that out. We'll figure out bass players and drummers and so with the drumming situation, we had tried working with a friend of mine, and it just wasn't a good fit stylistically. But then we're kind of up against the clock. And we're like, how are we gonna do this? And we just turned to Fiverr, and so we just sent the demos, and this dude like recorded them. So he recorded them and sent them to us. Our producer mixed all of it, and like sometimes I forget that we don't have a drummer because it sounds so like clean and like this is just how it's always sounded, But yeah, we're working on auditioning some people just to be kind of like our live like go-to players and everything like that. So, but yeah, like when we were in the studio, it really cemented the sort of the triumvirate effect of just like we really don't need a whole lot of other voices in the room or ideas in the room, and not to discredit what other people can bring in. But like we really like what we're doing. We really like the vision that we set, and it's just like it's very easy to put too many people into the mix. So yeah.
Oh no, I get it totally. And so you will be playing live shows hopefully soon is the plan. Yeah.
Yes.
And I do want to talk about, you kind of mentioned the branding a little bit. Normally I don't ask about that, but just the way like Cheap Bouquet was like announced to the world was so cool in my opinion, because I just like randomly like his Instagram appeared with like some flowers, and then there's some like TikToks of people playing with nothing going on, like
dude,
like talk to me about like that, like the vision, and kind of why not just do the classic everybody posts on their Instagram story, hey, in a new band, you want to follow the page? New stuff soon.
Yeah, I think from the very beginning, we kind of had this idea like we don't want to come out flat. Like we want to like build hype and like build an audience, and we want to have like fully produced music and like professional photos and like kind of just like come out swinging.
Yeah.
This is where I started talking about social media.
Yeah, Brandon, please go ahead. Brandon has been social media Jesus. It worked.
The social media king.
I trust this man.
Yeah.
With an
so
algorithm.
my last band, I was in charge of all of our social media, and I just ended up finding a real like just love for it.
Respect. You need that person.
Respect.
I fucking
really
hate
do.
running ear coffees.
No, and that's the thing. Like so many people do dislike it, and by all means, like I get why you wouldn't like it, because it's a lot of work, and there are some elements of it that just feel kind of shallow. And
it's a grind.
It is. It's a total grind. When Chelsea posed, she's like, I want us to be like professionally made photos, professionally made music, everything. I'm like, okay, well then we need to make sure that we're doing this correctly. And I remember, I think it was probably like late November, early December, I was like, here's my plan, you guys. January 1, I'm just going to start posting really vague shit. Not going to say who we are, because Chelsea and I knew, not to be too whatever, we knew like locally, people are going to be excited to see Chelsea from the Von Tramps, Brandon from Birdhole. How do these two guys come together, you know? So I was like, we need to build some hype, some anticipation. And the problem with like what you were describing of like people, it's like, oh, I have this new band, go check it out. You're giving away the thing starting at zero, and you're just putting music into a void, and you're putting your art into a void. And to me, like the social media piece is always about like audience engagement. Like it's not about necessarily going viral and getting views. It's about like finding my audience. And when people say things like, oh, well, Dave Grohl didn't have to go on TikTok. He just went out there and played shows, It's just like, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But that's like a different time and a different place. Like
Yeah.
if Dave Grohl was like, oh, hey, by the way, Dave Grohl, it's 1997 or whatever,
Yeah.
you can access millions of people across the planet. Dave Grohl would have done that in 97.
Dave Grohl also had zines in college radio and
Exactly,
like
yeah.
their media of the day. You
Right.
know?
The infrastructure was set there.
Yeah.
And this is our current infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the idea was just like, we're going to do this vague posting thing because I think I've said it's like by January, we'll probably have about 100 followers. February, somewhere in the 200. By the time we release, we'll have 500 followers. And not that anyone doubted it, but they're just like, okay, but like how? How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
But it's really just like being consistent, like on TikTok and like posting things. And like TikTok doesn't really care what it is. It just cares that you're putting something there and like people are engaging with it. And so, yeah, so then we started, little bits here and then the countdown began and, on Instagram with the flowers and stuff like that. And people were starting to get a sense of just like, what is this? Like who is doing this? And we were doing like behind the scenes stuff and telling the inner circle and following certain pages and stuff. But yeah, by the time it did come up, like people were really excited about it. And we've been seeing really good engagement off of, I won't say nothing, because we've put in a lot of work and created good content, but like we're about to release our first song and we have like half the followers that it took me like 3 years to get with my last band. So, so yeah, it's just about getting people. Like no one's gonna care more than us, but we gotta give them a reason to care about us, and I think that we've done a good job at doing that.
Yeah, I think when you reached out, Chelsea, to like be on the podcast, you didn't even tell me what band you were in yet, and so I was like, I learned.
You're like, what are you talking about?
Who we were interviewing when the like official like member announcement came out. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
It's like, hey, I got a band. Is it cool if we come in?
yeah, like, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a cool. So then, kind of moving forward, kind of last few questions here. So, what's kind of the goal? What's the end goal be all for Cheap Bouquet for y'all, either individually or as a group? You said you want to tour. Obviously, you want to release music. You want to play shows. You want to do everything you can.
I don't know, just tear shit up. That is all. I just want to tear shit up. This has been super fun, and I just want to see where we can go with it. Every step of the way has been more and more impressive to me and more exciting to me. So whatever we do, I'm gonna be stoked about.
Yeah, I think like what we've accomplished already before even putting out music is impressive to me. I mean, from being in bands for I don't know the past like 15 years already, it's just like seeing the hype around this is like really exciting. So yeah, but we have goals. We're gonna play our first show in June, and and then yeah, after that, I don't know. We're hoping to do some tours, hopefully this year, even maybe a small run in the fall, and yeah, just keep building off that, building our audience. One of our main goals is to hopefully hit a reach outside of Minneapolis. It's one of our main goals. We want to reach bigger cities, a bigger audience, and just see how far we can take it.
Yeah, definitely. We talked from the beginning of like, we are a Minneapolis band. We are like local to Minneapolis, but like we don't want to narrow ourselves down to like, playing the Minneapolis circle all the time. So, but yeah, no, for me, like individually goal, like it's nice to be in a group where there's no excuses, like I can look back at we were talking recently about like, how many bands have there been in? I've been in like 17, 18 bands or something like that. And I can look at each of them like, oh, well, this didn't work because of this, and this didn't work because of that. With this band, I'm like, there's nothing really that I could point to of like, oh, well, we just didn't do well because blah, blah. It's like, so it's like, okay, cool. We have a platform here where it's like, we can take this as far as we want to take it. Like I firmly believe that. And so, but definitely tours, like I have not played, aside from like other towns I've lived in, haven't really played outside of Minneapolis, haven't really done tours. We'd love to do some festivals next year. We're kind of eyeballing that. So, but yeah, just to reach as many people as we can, just with the songs, like the idea of like our music resonating with people. And even just now, like we've probably collectively, people have probably heard like 36 seconds of this song. Yeah. And seeing people's reaction is just like, there's nothing cooler than that as a songwriter. So just to continue to do that, just to have a platform where we can share this with everybody. So,
yeah. Big things are coming. And big things could stay tuned. Yeah.
So then finally here, where can people connect with Cheap Bouquet? Where can they find all the social media and where can they, see what's coming up next?
Yeah, so all of our social media, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Cheap Bouquet MPLS is going to be all of our handles. You can find us there. You can find us on Spotify. I've heard, like, my fellow musician friends are just like, how do you already have Spotify set up with no music? And I'm just like, that's just how it goes. But
Algorithm whisperer.
so yeah, so you can find all of our stuff there. I'm trying to think of where else we're at right now. I think it was like the main pages.
Do we have a Bandcamp?
Yeah, we're getting there.
To be
On
continued.
Bandcamp, eventually, that's the big thing that's coming.
Yeah, but we love hearing from folks. We get people from kind of all over commenting on stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely reach out to us. You know, we like getting to know everybody, and it is also nice sharing the social media like with everybody, and not just being the one person in there. Because like sometimes Sam's friend will message something. I'm like, I don't know who this person is or why they're talking to me all crazy. But yeah, like we're very responsive, we're very friendly. So.
Nice.
We know about it.
And then one more question I always forget about this, which is we always like to save a little section to shout out either your favorite local bands, your homies, whatever. And so obviously this is a non-exhaustive list. Otherwise we would be here for the next like 3 hours just remembering some guys. So yeah, who locally, regionally should people be checking out, making sure is on their radar and in their playlists?
I just went on tour with Cindy Lawson, so I'm going to shout her out. She's amazing. And then other local favorites include Space Monkey Mafia, Lost Island Society, and Tight Wires. Probably my favorite right now.
Shout out. Oh, we're all shouting out. Yeah, shout out. Shout out to everybody at the show last night, Space Monkey. Shout out to everybody, the Garage OGs. Shout out to Unturned. Shout out to Heart to Gold. Shout out to everybody out here. Everybody's doing fucking awesome shit.
Yeah, shout out to all of Maddie's 47 bands for
My
sure.
God.
Locally, my boys in Linus. Lewis helped us a lot getting some demos started with the beginning of the band. Regionally, some bands outside of Minneapolis we really love. My friends in Rat Bath out in Milwaukee are great. Our friends in Complacent out in Northwest Indiana, they're this hardcore punk band.
Oh, cool.
They are so sick.
Check them out. Yeah.
Their drummer Peyton is a good friend, and they've just been awesome. Big support for us. And my friends in Soul Meets Body out in DC, they've been super helpful as well. So yeah, all love.
Well, sick. Make sure you check out Heart Punch. Video and song are out on the 4th. Yep.
Yeah.
It'll be everywhere you consume your tunes. Sam, Brandon, and Chelsea, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having us.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so we can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information from this podcast and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to episodes, live sessions, and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and other written content. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.